Hello and welcome to the interview on France 24. The trial of former President Ben Ali in absentia starts today in Tunis, or one of the trials, rather, in charges of possession of drugs, narcotics, weapons. Former president is still in Saudi Arabia and is being tried and has to face charges of like 93 charges related to torture and murder that could end with a capital punishment indictment. Now, most Tunisians believe that the truth will not arise, and few people, well, some people are quite surprised that this trial is not imposed upon the entourage. And we're now in a link-up with one of the lawyers of Ben Ali from Beirut, Akram Azuri. Hello, Mr. Azuri.
Good day, sir.
When did you last see Mr. Ben Ali and speak to Mr. Ben Ali?
If I may, I will not answer this question, please.
This is too bad, because we would like to get a lot of information insofar as what he's been doing since the 14th of January. We have no information, but are you in regular contact with your customer, with your client?
May I also not answer this question, and if I may, could we focus on the technical aspects of the defense file?
You are one of the lawyers, as I said. You were not authorized to plead in Tunis today. Do you have any observations in this respect?
As you know, the principles of a fair trial, which Tunisia has subscribed for after signing the International Pact on Civil and Political Rights of 1966, lays down an important criterion. Each individual has the right to be defended by the attorney of his choice. The attorney of his choice, the attorneys of President Ben Ali being my colleague Le Borgne and myself, I have submitted to the Tunisian authorities a request for a political authorization in the form of a visa and a legal authorization, the authorization issued by the president of the Bar of Tunis. Without these authorizations, neither my colleague Le Borgne or myself can defend our client in Tunis, and neither of these authorizations have been issued, and we have therefore been incapable of attending the trial.
What is the reason behind this refusal?
I can't talk about a refusal because we haven't received any of these authorizations, so they haven't been explained.
Does that mean that Ben Ali cannot benefit from a fair trial in Tunisia?
The criteria of an equitable trial are as follows: have the right to be defended by an attorney of your choice, 2, to be able to be defended even in absentia. These two rules are binding on Tunisia and in France, not because of domestic laws, but because Tunisia and France have signed the International Pact of 1966. And you know very well that when there is a contradiction between an international law and a domestic law, it is international law that prevails. Therefore, President Ben Ali has the right to be defended in absentia by an attorney of his choice in front of a Tunisian tribunal. Without this, the judicial process would not meet the criteria for a fair trial.
Why is he not coming back to Tunisia? For example, President Mubarak in Egypt made a point of staying in his country. Why, first of all, why did Ben Ali leave the country, and perhaps is he considering coming back to his country to face trial, to face the justice of his country?
Sir, the decision to go back to Tunisia or not is a personal decision to be made by Mr. Ben Ali, and it is not a decision made by the lawyer. So long as the laws of Tunisia allow the accused to be defended under the Tunisian law by a lawyer of his choice, he will decide whether he attends the trial or not.
Are you aware that his fleeing his country could be considered as an aggravating circumstance?
First of all, sir, President Ben Ali did not flee from Tunisia. His departure from Tunisia was the result of a stratagem by the head of his personal bodyguard, Mr. Ali Seleriati, carried out on the 14th of January 2011, When he announced to President Ben Ali early in the morning that the intelligence services had informed him that members of his personal bodyguard had been ordered to murder him, he said he needed time to uncover the plotters, and he implored him to leave Tunisia for several hours. Several minutes later, Mr. Seriati showed the president that a helicopter was flying over the presidential palace and two military boats that were approaching from the sea. He told him the plane was ready, and all he had to do was drive Mrs. Ben Ali and his children to Jeddah, and the same plane would bring President Ali to Jeddah, and you know the rest of the story. When he arrived in Jeddah, the plane left in spite of the president's instructions.
Well, first of all, you confirmed some of the media information we got, and we read some facts according to which this was not really Ben Ali's decision, but rather his entourage's decision. But how do you explain that once in Jeddah, because he's actually free to do what he wants, why several days later did he not decide to come back to his country?
I have no answer to give you on this question.
Neither do we. Let's get back to the factual information in the first trial, because he's being accused of detention of weapons, narcotics, and assets, and theft. What would you say, either today or in forthcoming days, like, for example, if you were to really face up to this court and answer to those charges, would he plead guilty or not guilty? What would you answer?
May I remind you, sir, that when a judicial process begins, you end up with the presumption of innocence. The political judgment is one thing, and a lot of people have already judged President Ben Ali politically. Now, we must forget everything that has been said and broadcast over the last 4 or 5 months if we really want to apply the principle of the presumption of innocence and the onus of proof. This means that we have to talk not about an accusation, but about proof. The public prosecutor of Tunisia must submit to an independent judge the evidence, the proof of his accusations, and it is for the defense to refute this evidence. And if an impartial judge, without prejudice, gives a verdict, gives a ruling which is well balanced between the prosecutor and myself.
One single example that could be considered as a piece of evidence, this image which everybody saw of those wads of banknotes, for example, well, $27 million in cash and jewels discovered in the Sidi Bouzid Palace. Is that normal, having such an amount of cash, even as a president or head of state? Is this not perhaps something that you could actually observe among gangsters, more so than among presidents?
I agree perfectly with what you have just said. Indeed, the purpose of disseminating this image was to give this impression. But is it normal to find such things 2 months after the president's departure?
What do you mean? Are you saying that this image is just a masquerade? Or?
President Ben Ali denies strongly, categorically, that the foreign currency was physically present and the 2 kilograms of hashish were physically present in the presidential palace where they were found. The president's position is categorical. Neither the money nor the drug were in the palace when he left.
So you're saying that this was placed after his departure?
Exactly.
Another point, a few days ago, the former butler to Ben Ali, said he was ill and he suffered a lot, and he needed to take cocaine to soothe his pains, or hash, I forgot. But anyway, he had to consume narcotics. Do you also have the intention of pleading against the possession of narcotics, which is a very trivial element compared to the 93 other charges?
Listen, Let's focus on what we have said so far. The 2 kilograms of hashish and the millions in foreign currency were not present in the presidential palace on January the 14th. The time between the president's departure and the discovery of these assets makes the defense's case very easy to defend.
As far as the other items are concerned, and perhaps will you be allowed to plead in Tunisia, we will be tackling more serious charges, torture and murder. There are quite a number of testimonies and witnesses. Will you not be facing up to a very difficult challenge, impossible to overcome?
Let's wait and see what evidence is submitted, but I can already specify that all communications between the presidential palace and the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Defense are recorded. So, therefore, we don't need any testimonies. All we need to do is to listen to the tapes, which will speak for themselves. President denies having ordered that demonstrators should be shot at.
A question regarding possession of illegal assets abroad. Are you still confirming that Ben Ali had no properties or assets abroad?
Not only I maintain what I have said, but I have submitted 2 petitions to the Swiss authorities asking them to declare what assets they have frozen belonging to President Ali in Switzerland. The Swiss authorities cannot declare that they have frozen the assets without identifying them. Declaring that they have frozen assets can obviously lead public opinion to think that he really does have assets in Switzerland, whereas these assets don't exist.
Thank you very much, Mr. Azouri. If I understand correctly, Mr. Ben Ali says that he denies any wrongdoing.
Listen, he is quite prepared to be judged for his political record. No problem with that, because he governed Tunisia for a quarter of a century. His mandate can be judged from a political point of view. But the political judgment is one thing, and we cannot let defamatory, slanderous accusations be bandied about.
Thank you very much, Mr. Azouri. Live from Beirut, thank you for answering our questions, and thank you very much for being with us. You can tune into France24.com.